when I do these WSOP main event primer episodes each summer, I think one of the keys to doing well in the main event is being able to manage your table draw, because you see so many different table draws. Like you can get thrown in with a bunch of superstars where it's the worst table you've ever played at. That's happened to me before, and then you can get a great table too. Usually the good tables are early on, but I've also had some bad tables early on, and I've been moved to some like really good tables in day 3, day 4. But I guess it just didn't work out for you though, this main event, even though with the good draw and a lot of chips.
Yeah. Do you want one more quick hand or no?
Sure,
A main
sure.
event hand?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's 200, 400, 400.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Um, a whale limps in the hijack,
Okay.
and I go 1600 on the button before even looking at my cards.
That's right. Yes.
I just raise 4x because I want to ISO. The whale, when they have a raising range. I have not seen them limp raise. So when they're limping, it's just going to be weak hands, especially from the hijacker cutoff. I go 1600. The big blind, who is a try hard.
And by the way, you
wreck,
have 7-4 offsuit, right? If I remember this correctly.
Well, I didn't even look when I raised.
Really? You did the no look raise. Wow, that's amazing.
Raise, yeah.
So whale limps in the hijack, hero on button is 1600 to 4x with 7-4 off. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Try hard wreck calls in the big blind. The whale folds.
Okay, so big blind calls. Yep.
I would describe the try hard wreck as like that. Basically, that's it. They're trying to play good poker, but they're not necessarily succeeding. Flop is 4-5-8 with 2 spades.
So 4-5-8 spades. You have 7-4. I mean, not the worst flop in the world for you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He checks.
Okay.
I bet 1300. He calls.
Okay.
Turn is a offsuit 5.
Offsuit 5, pairing the middle card. Okay. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And now he donks for 3K, and I think he's kind of missing a couple things here. So when I take a small size on the flop, that kind of indicates that I'm betting range, and I could be betting like 5x on the flop. So like when you're allowed to donk the turn is when the pre-flop raiser on the flop takes a larger size, which indicates that they do have some checkbacks, and which indicates that they're probably betting top pair or over pairs, and they're not betting bottom or middle pair. But like when I take this like very small 30% size on the flop, that indicates that I'm betting range. So you're not really allowed to donk when middle card pairs, because I could have middle card.
Right. I'm just doing some math here. So he's betting like about half the pot on the turn, right? Something like that.
Yeah, so he donks for about half pot.
Okay.
And I decide to call with a pair plus a gut shot.
Okay.
River is an offsuit jack. He thinks for a bit, and he leads again, this time for 6K.
Wow. Okay. And then this is where I was just like, well, I guess I would just be done with it. And because I would be like, man, I mean, here's the thing. When I first read this, I always find the disconnected high card on the river kind of interesting with somebody with this line, because when you start to think about what is he leading here on the turn, you're like, well, representing for thick value here is 5x, or if he was playing some sort of stop and go, right, with a set which you block, a set of 4s, or like some sort of weird stop and go with 6-7 again, which you block there too. So that's the value portion. You also see people play this stop and go with like draws too, where they're like, oh, I'll check call with a flush draw or something and then lead turn. So now the disconnected high card on the river, like that really kind of polarizes him in the sense that now he is either representing like he has value or he has a bluff. And I wondered to myself here, because I looked at like all the different options, like, can you call here with a 4? And if his value range is like a 5+ and he's not gonna fold, this is my thinking, is it better to call than to like run some sort of bluff? Because I don't think he's just going to continue on if he ran into like Jack X of spades here.
See, I think that's a valid thought. I think it's a valid thought,
Mm-hmm.
but I also think we can take a couple things away here. I think we can take like, he doesn't have we have a 4 in our hand.
Mm-hmm.
Makes it very, very unlikely he has a full house with pocket 4s, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
If he has pocket 8s, is he really going to just come out and lead the turn with the nuts?
Mm-hmm.
That's just like tournament players, any type of player,
right.
isn't going to just lead. So like he never has a boat. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have a boat.
Okay.
I do think he can have a lot of 5x.
Right. Okay.
And I think it's just what happens him getting to this river. I think Yes, he could have some bluffs. I do think it's kind of an under bluff spot. I think he's just going to have a lot of 5x. I think he's just going to have a lot of 5x that's just trying to get value from, doesn't want me to check back and overpair. Again, this guy's try hard. Like he thinks I'll probably just check back and overpair on the turn or the river. And he's just trying to squeak out some value with a hand like ace 5 or 5-6 or 5-7 or something like that. I think he just has a lot of 5x. I think what happens, we're in the second level of the main. And I think if I just jam it in his face here, he can never call. So, he can never, ever, ever call.
So just a couple things on here because I'm reading some of the comments. And again, this goes back, and we'll talk about this here too, your idea to raise. But people were like, well, he's going to have king, jack of spades or, and get wrecked or jack nine of spades. And again, this is my contention here is that he's not going to have the run into jack with spade draws. And then someone said, well, what about a weak 8? Again, I don't think he has that. And when you texted me and you're like, I raised, and by the way, what did you raise to?
He had about 42K left after he bet 6K, so I
wow, hero jams. Wow, that is unbelievable. Now, obviously, you probably had a lot of chips at this spot, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you had him covered. And do you remember what I texted you back?
I think you said something like, I'm not sure 5x folds.
No, I said, well, I hope he doesn't have a 5.
Yeah, you said, I hope he doesn't have a 5.
I said, I hope he doesn't have a 5. Yeah.
Did you want to know what he had?
Well, okay.
Well, I told you what he had, yeah.
Did you find out what he had? So what ended up happening?
So he tanked for maybe 6 minutes. He folded.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, he's like, will you be honest with me? Will you tell me what you had? We'll be bagging up our chips. And I'm like, yeah, sure. And he's like, yeah, I told him. And he's like, you had what? You had a full house? And I'm like, no. I had 7-4 offsuit.
Mm-hmm.
I had a pair.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh my God. I flopped the straight.
I mean, for a try-hard rec, I don't know if a try-hard rec can put it together that it's probably better for him to call with a 5 than a straight with what you're representing. A lot of people don't understand that concept. So actually, with what you're representing, I'd rather have a 5 in his spot than flopping a straight. But I think the hand equivalency is the same in that mind, which is why I said, well, I wouldn't have tried this because I wouldn't have thought it would have worked. But
it always works. It's amazing. Okay, think about it. I was telling people at the CLP meetup, like, I'm going all in like 4 times minimum in the first 2 levels. And I did because people just protect their stack like it's so whole, like it's just sacrosanct. How do you say that word? And you can't put all the money in unless you absolutely have the nuts in the first 2 levels because your tournament life matters so much. So like I've just seen this over the years, and I'm like, okay, good bluff spots, definitely on day 1 in the main because no one's calling anything. You see people just like folding quads. Like I remember a couple years ago, someone just folded quads over. They actually were right. The other person had bigger quads, but like people just fold ridiculous hands on day. No one makes hero calls on day 1.
Wow, well, and then again, Squish, of course, is a CrushLivePoker contributor, does a video once a month, and bluffing is the new thin value betting, right, at the mid-stakes of live cash games, right? So,
it is.
All right. Marc, thanks for the call. I really appreciate it. You can see Marc commentating sometimes on Hustler Casino Live and playing Get Well. A couple of interesting hands there from the main event. Awesome.